When 52-year-old billionaire Eduardo Mendoza was dining at Madrid's most exclusive restaurant, the last thing he expected was for a 23-year-old waitress to approach him and say, "Excuse me, sir, but my mother has a ring exactly like yours." Eduardo looked at his engagement ring, a family heirloom passed down through generations, and felt the world stand still. There were only 3 such rings in the world. He wore one. Another had disappeared 25 years ago, and the third was supposed to be buried with the woman he had loved and lost forever. Madrid, November 2024. La Gastronómica restaurant in the Salamanca neighborhood was a gathering place for the Spanish elite. Eduardo Mendoza, a 52-year-old hotel magnate who owned a chain of luxury hotels valued at 500 million euros, dined alone at his usual table by the window. Eduardo looked like a successful but tormented man. His gray hair was perfectly styled. He wore a 3,000 euro Italian suit, and on his left hand shone a unique ring, a white gold signet ring with a blue sapphire surrounded by diamonds. It was a family relic over 200 years old. He had come to the restaurant to celebrate, in solitude, the 20th anniversary of the company he had founded with his late wife, Carmen. But the celebration felt empty without her. Carmen had passed away 5 years prior, taking all their future dreams with her. "More wine, Mr. Mendoza?" a soft voice asked. Eduardo looked up and saw a young waitress, about 23 years old. She was brunette with expressive brown eyes and a timid smile. She wore the immaculate restaurant uniform, a white shirt and a black vest. "Yes, please," Eduardo said, looking at her name tag, Sofia. As Sofia poured the wine, Eduardo noticed that the young woman was looking at him strangely, as if she had seen something that disturbed her. "Is something wrong?" Eduardo asked. Sofia hesitated for a moment, biting her lower lip. "Excuse me, sir, but may I ask you something about your ring?" Eduardo looked at his left hand, surprised. "My ring?" "Yes," Sofia said, moving a little closer and lowering her voice. "My mother has a ring exactly like yours." Eduardo felt as if he had been punched in the stomach. He froze, looking at the young woman with disbelief. "That's impossible," he murmured. "This ring is unique. It has been in my family for generations." "I know it sounds strange," Sofia said nervously, "but when I saw your ring, I almost dropped the tray. It's identical to the one my mother has worn since I can remember." Eduardo felt his heart start to pound faster. There were only 3 such rings in the world. His great-grandfather had commissioned them in 1890 for his 3 children. He wore one, inherited from his father. The second had disappeared 25 years ago when his twin brother, Carlos, passed away in a mountaineering incident. And the third, "What's your mother's name?" Eduardo asked, his voice trembling. "Carmen Ruiz," Sofia replied. "Why? Do you know her?" Eduardo felt his world collapse around him. Carmen, his late wife, was named Carmen, but her last name was Mendoza, not Ruiz, and she had passed away 5 years ago. "How old is your mother?" Eduardo asked, struggling to maintain his composure. 47, Sofia replied. "Mr. Mendoza, you've gone very pale." Eduardo tried to process the information. Carmen would be exactly 47 years old if she were alive. But it was impossible. He had been at her funeral. He had seen her casket. "Sofia," Eduardo said in a hoarse voice, "I need you to do me a very important favor. Could you show me a photo of your mother?" Sofia looked at him confused but took out her mobile phone, searched her gallery, and showed him a photo. Eduardo looked at the screen, and the world stopped completely. It was Carmen, his Carmen, alive. Eduardo clutched the phone with trembling hands, looking at the photo as if it were an apparition. It was Carmen, without a doubt. Her hair was shorter, and she had aged a few years, but it was her. The same green eyes, the same smile, the same way of tilting her head. "Mr. Mendoza?" Sofia looked at him, concerned. "Are you all right?" "This woman," Eduardo said, pointing to the photo. "Where does she live?" "In Cuenca, sir." "Why do you know her?" Eduardo stood up abruptly, knocking over his wine glass. The other diners in the restaurant looked at him with curiosity. Sofia, I need you to tell me everything about your mother. Everything. Sir, you're scaring me. What's happening? Eduardo sat back down, trying to calm himself. I'm sorry. It's just that your mother looks a lot like someone I knew a long time ago. Well, Sofia said, still nervous, my mother's name is Carmen Ruiz. She's lived in Cuenca as long as I can remember. She worked as a secretary until she took early retirement 2 years ago. And your father? I don't have a father. Well, my mother says he passed away when I was a baby in a work-related incident. Eduardo felt his skin prickle. A work-related incident? Yes, he was an architect. My mother says he passed away in a building collapse during construction. Eduardo had been an architect before dedicating himself to hotels, and he remembered perfectly well that he had faked his own passing in a construction site incident to leave with Carmen 25 years ago. But the Carmen in the photo was his wife, the one who had passed away 5 years ago. Sofia, Eduardo said in a very serious voice, when is your birthday? March 15th. Why all these questions? Eduardo made a quick calculation. If Sofia was 23, she was born in March 2001, exactly 9 months after the last time he had seen his Carmen alive, before the supposed car accident. My goodness, Eduardo murmured. It can't be. What can't be? Eduardo looked at Sofia with new eyes. Now that he knew what to look for, he could see the resemblance. She had his nose, the shape of his eyebrows, his long, elegant hands. Sofia, Eduardo said, his voice cracking. Did your mother ever tell you about a man named Eduardo? The young woman frowned. No. Well, sometimes when she has a little wine, she mentions an Eduardo and gets sad, but she never wants to talk about him. Eduardo felt tears well up in his eyes. Carmen was alive, and if his suspicions were correct, Sofia was his daughter. I have to see your mother, Eduardo said, standing up again. Right now. But sir, it's 10 at night, and she's in Cuenca, 2 hours from here. I don't care. Can you call her? Tell her to come. Sofia took a step back. Mr. Mendoza, you're really scaring me. What's going on? Eduardo realized he was acting erratically. He took a deep breath and tried to calm himself. Sofia, what I'm about to tell you may sound incredible, but I believe your mother is my wife. Your wife? But that's impossible. My mother isn't married. My wife, Carmen, passed away in a car accident 5 years ago, or at least that's what I believed. Sofia looked at him as if he had lost his mind. Sir, my mother hasn't had any accident. She lives perfectly well in Cuenca. Eduardo took off his ring and showed it to Sofia. It's exactly like your mother's. Sofia examined the ring closely. It's identical. It even has the same inscription inside. Eternal love. Eduardo felt a chill. Only Carmen and he knew about that inscription. Sofia, Eduardo said with determination, I have to go to Cuenca tonight. Will you come with me? But sir, I'll pay you 1,000 euros to come with me. I just need you to take me to your mother. Sofia looked at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. All right, but if you turn out to be acting erratically, I'm calling the police. Eduardo smiled for the first time in years. If I'm acting erratically, you can call anyone you want. If you're enjoying this story, please show your support and subscribe to the channel. Now, let's continue with the video. Eduardo's Audi sped down the highway towards Cuenca. At 11 p.m. Sofia was in the passenger seat, still nervous but intrigued. Can you explain what's really going on? Sofia asked. Eduardo kept his eyes on the road. 5 years ago, my wife, Carmen, passed away in a car accident, or at least that's what I was told. And you think my mother is your wife? The rings, the name, the age, your birth date, everything matches. They arrived in Cuenca at 1 a.m. Sofia directed Eduardo to a small apartment in the old town. They went up the stairs in silence. Sofia knocked gently on the door. Mom, it's me, Sofia. The door opened, and a woman in a bathrobe, her hair disheveled from sleep, appeared. Eduardo felt his heart stop. It was Carmen, his Carmen, alive and real, standing in front of him after 5 years of believing she was gone. Carmen looked at Eduardo, and all the color drained from her face. "Eduardo," she whispered. "Hello." "Carmen," Eduardo said, his voice trembling. "We have a lot to talk about." Carmen looked at Sofia with panicked eyes. "What have you done?" "Mom, is it true? Is he my father?" Carmen covered her face with her hands and began to cry. "Come in," she finally murmured. It was inevitable that this day would come. The small living room of the apartment was silent. Carmen had put a jacket over her bathrobe and looked at Eduardo with eyes red from crying. "How long have you known I was alive?" Eduardo asked. "Always. I never believed you had passed away in that construction incident." "Then why did you fake your passing?" Carmen took a deep breath. "Because I discovered what you were really doing. The business dealings with Raul Vasquez, the money handling issues, the threats." Eduardo tensed. "How did you know about Raul?" "He followed me one day. He told me that if I didn't cooperate with him, both you and I would end up in a difficult situation." Sofia looked at them without understanding. "Who is Raul Vasquez?" "Someone with whom I should never have done business," Eduardo said with bitterness. Carmen continued. "Raul offered me a deal. If I faked my passing and disappeared, he would leave you alone. But if I stayed, he would harm both of us." "And you accepted?" "I was 2 months pregnant. I couldn't risk our baby's life." Eduardo looked at Sofia with new eyes. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you would have tried to stop me, and both of us would have ended up in a difficult situation." Sofia stood up abruptly. "Are you saying I've been living a lie for 23 years? "I did it to protect you," Carmen said. "You told me my father had passed away. I grew up believing I was an orphan." Eduardo approached Sofia. "I'm sorry. If I had known you existed. After you faked your passing, Raul left you alone?" Carmen continued. "But he threatened to harm us if I ever tried to contact you. And for all these years, I've lived in fear until 5 years ago, Raul passed away in a gang conflict. I saw the news in the newspaper. Finally, we were free. Then why didn't you come back to me?" "Because too much time had passed, and I wasn't the same woman anymore." Sofia headed for the door. "I need fresh air. I need to think." She left the apartment, leaving Eduardo and Carmen alone for the first time in over 20 years. Carmen and Eduardo remained silent after Sofia left. The weight of more than 2 decades of separation filled the air between them. "She looks like you," Carmen finally said. "She has your temperament," Eduardo replied with a sad smile. Carmen took off her ring and held it out to Eduardo. "I suppose I should give this back to you." Eduardo shook his head. "That ring belongs to you. It always has." "Eduardo, after your supposed passing, I left all the difficult business dealings. I sold everything. I moved away from that life." "Seriously?" Raul had gotten what he wanted. He had taken away the only thing that really mattered to me. Carmen looked at him with new eyes. "That makes me happy. Carmen, I know many years have passed, but do you think we could try to get to know each other again?" Carmen hesitated. "Eduardo, we are not the same people we were 25 years ago. Perhaps that's good. Perhaps now we can build something better." At that moment, the door opened, and Sofia entered again. She had been crying, but had calmed down. "I've been thinking," Sofia said, "and I've decided that I want to get to know my father, but with conditions." Eduardo nodded. "Whatever you want. First, no more lies ever again." "I accept," Eduardo said. "Second, I want to get to know your life little by little." "Of course," Carmen said. "And third, I want you to promise me that you will never again put business above family." Eduardo approached Sofia. "I promise you. In these 5 years, I learned that all the money in the world is worth nothing without family." Sofia looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. "All right, we can try." Carmen approached and hugged both of them. "Perhaps it's not too late to be a family." Eduardo felt something he hadn't felt in years: hope. 6 months later, The terrace of Eduardo's most luxurious hotel in Valencia was decorated for a special celebration. It was Sofia's 24th birthday, and for the first time in her life, she was celebrating it with both parents. The months had been a slow but beautiful process of getting to know each other. Sofia had left her waitressing job to study hotel management, with Eduardo paying for her studies. Carmen had moved to Madrid to an apartment near Eduardo's, and slowly they had been rebuilding their relationship. "How does it look on me?" Sofia asked, showing off the blue dress Carmen had given her. "You look beautiful," Carmen said, adjusting her necklace. Eduardo approached with a small box in his hands. "Sofia, there's something I want to give you." Sofia opened the box, and inside was a ring. It wasn't identical to Eduardo and Carmen's, but it had the same design adapted in rose gold. "I had this ring made especially for you. It's part of the family tradition, but it's uniquely yours." Sofia put on the ring and burst into tears. "Dad." It was the first time she had called him Dad. Eduardo felt his eyes fill with tears. "I love you, my daughter." Carmen approached and hugged them both. "I never thought this day would come." During dinner, Sofia stood up to make a toast. "6 months ago, I thought I was an orphan. Today, I have a complete family. It hasn't been easy, and we're still learning to be parents and daughters after so many lost years. But I believe the best families are not those that are born perfect, but those that choose to work to make it so." Eduardo raised his glass. "To second chances." Carmen raised hers. "To love that survives time." Sofia smiled. "And to families who find each other when they least expect it." 3 years later, Eduardo and Carmen remarried in a small but emotional ceremony. Sofia was the maid of honor and walked her mother down the aisle. Eduardo had transferred most of his hotels to a charitable foundation, keeping only 2 to live comfortably. Carmen now ran the foundation, which helped families who had been separated, turning their experiences into purpose. Sofia had graduated with honors and now managed one of the family hotels, demonstrating that she had inherited both her father's entrepreneurial talent and her mother's compassion. One night, while dining on the terrace of their home on the outskirts of Madrid, Sofia raised her wine glass. "Do you know what's the strangest thing about all of this?" "What?" Eduardo and Carmen asked in unison. "That it all started because I recognized a ring. If that day I hadn't been working in that restaurant, if I hadn't seen Dad's ring, maybe we never would have met." Eduardo took Carmen and Sofia's hands. "Fate has mysterious ways of bringing families together." Carmen smiled. "Sometimes the most precious things are found when you stop looking for them." "And sometimes," Sofia added, "happy endings come when you least expect them." After years of waiting, Eduardo looked at the ring on his hand, then at the rings on Carmen and Sofia's hands. 3 rings, 3 lives that had separated and found each other again. Their story showed that true love can survive decades of separation, that families can be rebuilt even after years of necessary silence, and that sometimes miracles come disguised as coincidences in elegant restaurants. If this story has moved you to tears, and you believe that families can be reunited even after decades of separation, and that true love survives time, please show your support below. We want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced a coincidence that changed your life? Do you believe that there are signs of fate that guide us towards the people we love? Tell us your stories of family reunions and miraculous coincidences in the comments. If this story has touched your heart, like it if you believe that family love transcends time and distance, and subscribe so you don't miss stories that show miracles exist. Share it with someone who needs to believe in second chances for families. Comment, "Destiny United," if you also believe that families are meant to find each other. Remember, no matter how much time passes or how many necessary understandings there have been to protect those we love, true family love always finds a way to bring those who belong together. And sometimes, it's the smallest details, like a family ring, that open the doors to the most extraordinary reunions. See you in the next video with another story that will make you believe in the magic of unbreakable family bonds. We love you, heart families.